Repping that messy jersey for the World Cup, you know? Hypergamy. Why modern dating feels broken. Now, social dynamics between genders have always been quite complex, but the world has morphed dating into a competition of social status. Hypergamy is the notion that women tend to date higher than their own social class. This damages society by allowing higher status men to date carelessly and for lower status men to be deprived of connection. So let's get into it. Now, this is nothing new. It's been going on since pretty much the beginning of civilization. But the question is whether we acknowledge our union with God has been broken. People have always been married, historically, as a religious thing. And many people who claim religion in the modern age may not be the most celibate or following the most religious lifestyle, and that's fine, but it's quite hypocritical to claim a religion and not follow any of the guidelines that ascribe to that religion. When the traditional pairing of the nuclear family unit is no longer the norm, the excess men will engage in antisocial behavior that collapses society. Because I'll talk about this in depth a little later, but the incentive for a man to go to work, it's very stressful. It's often quite grueling to do this on a daily basis, but and do this to provide for families. And if this sole purpose has been taken away from them, they will find it very difficult to have any motivation whatsoever to be productive. So let's get into it. Before social media, women did not have a hyper-inflated sense of ego because they didn't have dudes messaging them all the time. And when her ego is inflated, so are her standards. On dating apps, men find women reasonably attractive, but the data is quite clear that women are only going for the top percentile in looks and status. And bro, if you're a guy who uses dating apps, this is like, first of all, if you do somehow manage to get a match on one of these dating apps, this bitch is gonna look like the Wicked Witch of the West. Looks are a huge thing. Even though it's shallow, the reality is that most people meet online these days. So if you're a guy who sucks at taking photos, it's over for you, man. But also, I want to point out that you need to remember women are experts with lighting, angles, and filters. So a lot of them aren't as attractive as you think that they are. But also on the flip side, men don't even hit the gym and they aren't well groomed and they still find the audacity or nerve to complain about the dating market. Bro, you haven't even put in the minimum effort to get into the game. I think the large majority of incels are dudes who haven't done any work and don't want to do any work to get a woman interested in them. And I get it, it sucks that you have to put in so much work now just to enter the dating market, but it's the reality of the world we have curated for ourselves through globalization and hyper connection. Bro, if you're a guy, you need to understand dating is war. It's cutthroat these days. You either put the work in or you lose to guys who do, because women have run out of empathy these days, and I can't entirely blame them. It's one thing for men who genuinely try and work hard and they still can't get laid, but it's another thing entirely for men who lay around, do the bare minimum, especially if you work a job. I'm not saying everyone has to be an entrepreneur, but you do have to stand out in this day and age, and I know it's unfair, but take it as a positive thing that we live in a sort of Renaissance period where we have people who are multidisciplinary artists, where we have people who are chasing their passions, and for the first time, anyone can make their dreams come through the use of the internet. And it's a beautiful thing when you've become a man of prestige and you have a woman dedicated to making you king so that she can become queen resultantly. It's actually a large part of what women desire. A lot of female literature is like erotic. You would be surprised how well these novels and literature sell. about female sexuality, where it's like some guy who's like a monster or some super status billionaire picks up this chick. That's literally a lot of female literature, right? And it sells extremely well if you look into the data. This is almost like pornography for women, because women don't get turned on visually as much as guys do, if that makes sense. Women have always set high expectations for men because they are also the motivation for us to be great. Marriage is what historically allowed the average man to have a family. But considering that divorce rates are at 50%, people aren't really considering or chasing ideologies like marriage and stability anymore, but rather other ideologies like hookup culture. And that's fairly damaging. The modern man, the average man being able to get laid is a huge backbone of society. You may think that sounds ridiculous, or you may, be aware of how socioeconomics works, and you agree with me. You're like, yeah, the dynamics between women and men largely influence the economy, and by extension, the state of the entire world. I'll put it like this, and I don't believe in social status or caste systems of any sort, but this is a good metaphor. This is the first time in history where a peasant status woman could marry a king status man. Historically, kings did not marry down, right? They married noble women. They would never really even consider a peasant woman. And the same thing with queens, right? Queens would only marry noble men, but you notice how it hasn't really changed for women, but it has changed for men, because a very rich, like a multimillionaire, attractive multimillionaire, he'll pick up a chick who works at McDonald's, no problem. That's very rare and seldom happening. I'm not saying that if you're poor as a man, you can't get laid. That's not at all what I'm saying. And hookup culture literally is reflective of why, marriage rates are falling, why divorce is increasing. But anyway, women are the gatekeepers of sexual selection. Therefore, it's fair to assume they would have higher standards, as they are responsible for the evolution of our species. But a good life hack is that women are more so attracted to men who are productive and generative. So if you focus on having motion instead of having women, you'll be quite surprised, bro, at how these chicks just start to seemingly appear out of nowhere. No, I'm not saying that you need to Sigma grind set and just go all in. I think you should do that. In terms of attracting women, you're still going to have to put the effort in, but it's like, okay, this is a really good metaphor. Video games have difficulty settings, right? You can change the difficulty to hard or easy. When you're a guy who doesn't have his shit together, it's hard mode. When you're a guy who has life pretty well figured out, you're comfortable, you don't stress about much, you have shifted the difficulty of dating from hard to easy. It's literally a video game. Life is a video game, and dating is a part of life, and it has a difficulty setting that you can adjust as a man. Women will always, if you choose a video game character, your avatar is a woman in this world, it's going to be easy mode when it comes to dating for majority of young women. It is the complete opposite for young men. We have to spend years callousing our mind, building our bodies, becoming people who are respectable and have really put a lot of work into developing themselves. You don't have to do that as a woman. You just literally don't. Alimony exists as proof that women's standards are sustained and rarely ever earned. Because you want to know how much alimony is paid to men? I'll let you guess. Spoiler alert. It's not a lot. Our primal human nature, if you really want to get into it, for men, it's procreation. For women, it's to seek safety and provision. She will always prefer the attractive millionaire. But the thing is, she knows that she can have a beta all to herself, and this gives her much more power. It's not the most feminine thing in the world to desire power, but women are hypermasculine in this age. So the idea of controlling the beta instead of sharing the alpha is much more appealing to them. Something even more sinister, and you can make an argument against this point for social media, but definitely for dating apps, they don't really want you to find love and connection, because then you stop paying for Tinder Premium. Then you stop feeding the algorithm, right? It's much more profitable for people to be lustful and engage in the sex industry. A 2024 study found that 90% of people believe this to be the most difficult dating market in history. At least we're self-aware. Ever since the internet came along and connected us and globalized the dating market, hypergamy has intensified rapidly, which is quite ironic considering the internet was meant to connect us. Instead, it's done quite the opposite, because you are seeing both the worst and the best of humanity, regardless of your gender. If you're a woman and you know you're capable of meeting someone online, which the majority of couples actually do meet online these days, you know that you can simply go for the most attractive, the highest status guys. And if you're a man, you're going to message all women, regardless of their social status. As long as she's kind of attractive, she is going to get attention. And this ties into all the points I made earlier. Pornography has greatly damaged society, because the losers who jerk off to porn have a hypersexualized view of women. And now women think that all men have porn brain, which ruins it for the actually decent guys, if that makes sense. People who meet online are 6 times more likely to get a divorce. And considering it is the #1 way people meet these days, it is very telling of our society. And I'm not saying I wish it was not this way, but there's always a cultural difference when you're not meeting a woman through community, because the modern world doesn't really allow you to meet women outside of circumstances like the gym, of course, or work, but that's very risky for most people. So unless you're going out to social events, which majority of people are not, it's going to be difficult for you to find someone to connect with. Get off the internet and meet chicks in real life, bro. We live in a hustle culture. So something even I've fallen victim to is having the mindset of focusing on yourself first and working really hard and getting your life together, and then focusing on the dating and connection side of things, which is something I support, and I think it is fairly healthy. But there is a big problem with this. And that problem is that we as humans are not naturally monogamous by nature. Monogamy is good for society, right? No doubt about that, for reasons I pointed out earlier in the video. But why would a guy who works his ass off to meet the standards of modern women settle for just one? Real question. And like I said, I support monogamy simply because, I mean, in my personal opinion, you would definitely find more fulfillment as an 80-year-old man with a 75-year-old, maybe even 70-year-old wife, as opposed to a 55-year-old billionaire with a 20 or 25-year-old girlfriend. And the reason for this is that when you've known your wife your entire life, you know, you have someone, you've grown old and you're all wrinkly and saggy, but you have someone to share the beauty of aging with, because we live in a society where, you know, we live in a society where people try to villainize aging and they don't view it as something beautiful. But I think it is one of the most beautiful things in the world. I think it is beautiful to age, and, you know, Hollywood has people trying to chase looking younger and buying skincare products and getting cosmetic surgery. And this is all just so, like, we can't accept the fact that we're human and we look normal. Anyway, like I was saying, the 80-year-old man with the wife, he's known his wife his whole life, so he has someone to share his golden years with. Monogamy supports society because it gives men family, and therefore it gives them incentive to work. And even as a guy, if you ask most guys who are being completely honest with themselves, not all guys, but most guys, if they had the ability to be polygamous, they would. And what needs to be pointed out is that monogamy supports society because, like I said, it gives you incentive to work, but it gives you something deeper, which is love. People don't talk about it these days. Doesn't anybody talk about love anymore? That's something that is going to be absent in a decade or two when dudes settle for sex robots, because that's coming, right? First, of course, they're going to have the robots. They're going to have the robots in your house that are doing your chores. It's going to be a crazy next century. People don't really understand how much is coming in our lifetimes. What a time to be alive is all I'm going to say. But this reminds me of a beautiful quote. We expect more from technology and less from each other. Sherry Turkle. So now that you know fully what hypergamy really is, and now that you know why modern dating feels so broken, the question is, are we just going to give up completely? Of course not. But we most definitely need to restructure our approach to dating. For men, I have two very important things that I need all of you to do. Number one, stop validating women online. It hyperinflates their ego by giving them unearned attention or validation. This creates an unhealthy culture, which further reinforces the effects of hypergamy. Follow girls you're interested in, flirt with them in comment sections. But the fact that we have an economy of dudes paying for pictures of women, right? That's what OnlyFans is. And then the people who run OnlyFans buy bombs and missiles to shoot at children in Tel Aviv. This is not like, you might think I'm trying to be edgy and funny, but this is not like humor. This is not a joke. This is really just what's happening. And nobody even really cares is the thing. Yeah, man. That's off topic. Just please stop validating women. The second thing is, if you are a man who is sexually active, seek stability in your life. Refuse hookup culture. Be conscious with women you talk to. Actually focus on her personality, bro. And I get it, man. Okay, I completely understand. I see a chick with a fat ass walk by, I'm like, damn, I want to hit that shit. Right? But I control my urges, and I check myself every time I have a lustful thought about a woman that I see in public. Like, don't think about her like that, man. That's a woman, that's a child of God. Anyway, for women, it's actually quite simple. Bring your standards back down to earth. That's literally it. If you want Romeo, act patient and stop pretending that he's in the bottle service section of the nightclub. So to sum it all up, for men out there, stop validating women online. If you can't get laid. If you can get laid, be conscious, seek family, seek stability. If you are going to be polygamous, make sure all parties are aware. Yeah, and if you're a woman, like I said, have standards because it shows class. But just make sure they're realistic, because the last thing I'll say is that I like to talk about conspiracies on this channel because I think it fits with my message fairly well. But I do think women are being shown and buying other women handbags, jewelry on social media, women being flown out, and women are getting professional athletes in their DMs, quote unquote, influencer entrepreneurs, right? And there may be a reason that you are being shown these things. There may be a reason why your expectations, for the same way men look at porn and then expect reality to be that way. This may be the female equivalent, in my opinion. But those are just my thoughts. Like and subscribe. It takes you 2 seconds, but it helps me out more than you could imagine. Love you guys.